Good morning and welcome to our UBC Learning Circle Indigenous Public Health Training Information Session 2024. Today's conversation is presented in partnership with the Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health. We'd like to thank the First Nations Health Authority for generously funding the UBC Learning Circle and allowing us to have these conversations. Before we formally begin, I'd like to acknowledge with respect and gratitude that I'm joining you from the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Please feel free to introduce yourselves and the nation you are calling in from in the chat box. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarain Squawkin. I am Syilx Okanagan on my mother's side and Hickory Apache and Belgian settler on my father's side. I'll be your moderator for today's discussion. Joining us, working behind the scenes, is our program assistant, Kira. She'll be in the background interacting with everyone in the chat. And finally, before we get into today's discussion, I'll provide a gentle heads up that the topics covered may be sensitive or emotionally triggering. Please make sure that you're looking after yourself, and if at any point in time you need to talk to a friend, elder, counselor, or family member, don't hesitate to do so. We will have some prompts in the chat if you need additional support. And now I'll turn it over to Rhonda to introduce everyone.
Hey, Tanshi, Rhonda Deshinakashun. I will try to introduce myself. I just realized I need to practice that a bit better, but my name is Rhonda Carrier, and I'm the Indigenous Public Health Program Manager. And I am zooming in this morning from the unceded and ancestral lands of the Squamish Nation. I'm in Gibsons, and I also proud to mostly live, work, and play on the lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people when I'm on the mainland side. Just a short intro at this point. Okay, I will pass it on to Cheyenne.
Bonjour, Cheyenne Wakade Benishin Indigenous. My name is Cheyenne Blackbird. I'm calling in from the Coast Salish lands out in Chilliwack, which is the Adjalits, Chiem, Kwakaplit, Shwe, Squaw, Squeala, Suwali, Skakale, Chiacton, and Yakuis First Nations, and I am very grateful to be joining today. Yeah, it's Cheyenne Blackbird. I work as an Indigenous lead with PHSA, and I was a graduate of the IPH Institute in February 2024. Really enjoyed my time at the Institute. The learnings there were incredible. They helped me with my career, and they also helped me with additional education as I'm now a student in the Masters of Health Administration program at UBC.
Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the session. My name is Damien Duffy, and I am a non-Indigenous settler from mixed ancestry, Irish on my father's side and French on my mother's side. And I'm zooming in today from the traditional ancestral and unceded territory of the Musqueam First Nation. And I too am a graduate of the Indigenous Public Health program, and I graduated with Cheyenne as well. And I'm currently a graduate student in the Masters of Indigenous Education program at UBC. And I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to be talking about Indigenous public health with everyone here this morning. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for coming.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Hill. I'm a Mohawk from Six Nations, Ontario. I'm coming to you today from the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh Nation. I am a graduate from the Indigenous Public Health program in August, and a graduate from the Indigenous Health Administration program that UBC offers as well too. And I'm currently Indigenous Patient Navigator with Correctional Health Services and PHSA, which is under the BC Mental Health and Substance Use Services.
There we are. Thank you, everybody who has joined me here this morning from the IPH program. And thank you to all the guests who have joined us this morning as well. I just wanted to also, I know I gave a very short intro, but just to say that I'm back in the Indigenous Public Health program. I've been with the program off and on since 2019. And the last time we did this learning circle, I think was 2020 or 2021. So it's been a little bit of time. And so we're really happy to come back and tell you a little bit more about what we do here at the Indigenous Public Health Training Institutes. Just for a short, I know I didn't really tell you who I was, but I do want to do that. So I am Métis on my father's side. He is from the Red River, but from Winnipeg Treaty 1 territory. And I grew up here in the West Coast, so Vancouver, Burnaby, Ladner area. And my German settler on my mom's side. And I'm active in the local Vancouver Sea to Sky Métis Association, and I'm very proud to represent Michif and Métis people here at UBC and in the IPH program. There's lots of us, so just a little bit about me. So I guess leading into who we are and what we do, we've got some lovely slides, and I think before we move on to the next one, this one here is going to give you some very current pictures from the Indigenous Public Health Summer Institute that just occurred just a few months ago. Time flies. I can't believe it's November, but these photos were taken just from our last cohort, and these are the graduates. As Kevin and Cheyenne and Damien are all graduates, I think, oh, you guys all graduated before this photo. Oh, no, Kevin, there you are. You graduated in August. So you'll see Kevin there probably holding his graduate certificate in Indigenous Public Health, and that's about what we're going to tell you about today. And the other person I want to note in the photos on the screen is Elder Norm Leach, who's in the photo, and you'll see him probably in some of the other photos. I can't see the photo because I think I've got my screen over top, but I believe Dr. Nadine Caron, Drew St. Laurent, and I can't tell who's on the right of Nadine there, but there's some of the program directors and our director of operations in the photo there as well. I'm just going to change my view so I can see the slides a little bit. Oh, there we go. Damien, that's you. Now I can see you. Damien joined us last summer as our elders helper classroom assistant. So he was very active working to support the students and helping out with the elders who are there for all of our classes. I hope not to be a talking head too much through this session, but anybody who wants to jump in, I guess just to give you a little bit of background about who we are. So the Indigenous Public Health program has been at UBC, I think, since 2018. I had some notes on paper about the actual dates, and I've misplaced that piece of paper. But what I can tell you is our co-director, Dr. Nadine Caron, is the person that brought the program to UBC. You may know her as the first Indigenous general surgeon in Canada. If you don't know her, Google her name. She's a very amazing and prominent Indigenous health leader in Canada that you should know about. And she modeled our program off one that exists at the Johns Hopkins University. So they've got a Center for American Indian Health, and they've been running training institutes down there. I'm not sure when they began, but at some point in time, Dr. Caron was a student there in public health. And so I think her dream was always to bring a program like this to Canada. So we began as kind of the sister program to the Johns Hopkins University program, but we've kind of evolved from there to making it very specific to Canadian public health, Indigenous public health. So at this point, we're Canada's only Indigenous public health professional development program. There are master's programs, but we are offering as something a little bit different. It leads to a graduate certificate, and it can also lead to transferable courses that can you can apply to a master's in public health or other programs. So this program comes from the Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health at UBC. We're under the Faculty of Medicine, and we've been going since 2018. We hope that through the 8 core courses we offer, that we are equipping community members and leaders. Some are students and scholars, some are frontline healthcare workers or other people that work within community development and community health to get the skills and to address public health issues in our communities across the country. I guess we can go next slide unless anyone else has anything to say about that part. Yeah, all of this up front is a little bit about how this works. So for those of you that are maybe new to the Indigenous Public Health Training Institutes, it's a very unique program in that we offer it twice a year. So we have a February and an August institute. So the February one is winter, obviously, and that's coming up soon. And then we offer a summer institute. And during that time, it's 1 week on campus at UBC. We offer 2 courses. So it's a very intensive week where you've got a morning class and an afternoon class. Each class is 1.5 graduate credits. or there is a non-credit option available. So if you are maybe wanting to do this course for professional development, you're not seeking the certificate, you may want to apply as a non-credit student. Or if you don't have I think, a minimum 2 years, I think is what we're looking for, a minimum 2 years post-secondary. But even then, we also value community experience and working experience, lived experience in the community. There's other reasons why people may choose the non-credit option. But I think we've got a slide later on that sort of talks about how those two options differ. But one thing that we do is invite students to campus twice a year. And you can see from the background of some of these lovely pictures here, some of our classrooms and setup. And I want somebody who's on the Zoom, I see Kevin, you're in the picture, to tell me about the bottom picture, because that happened, I think, in an institute where I was not there. I was curious to know what the bottom picture is all about. I don't know, Kevin, can you tell me what you guys were doing there?
Yeah, it was one of our group projects that we had to do, and so we were doing like the healthcare cookie, and so we were adding bits and pieces that we think go into the quality healthcare service, and so that's what we did. And one of the guest lecturers was talking using the analogy of a healthcare cookie and all the ingredients that go into having a proper healthcare system.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, that's wonderful. I have a slide later on too to talk about some of the ways that we learn in the classroom, and group presentations is one of them. So students get the chance to be part of a small group within the class. Class is made up of 25 students. So within that, there will be a small group, and then small group projects where you can use your innovation and creativity. I love this. This is great. We have everything from kind of role plays and skits to PowerPoint presentations to people who get creative like this. This is wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. I guess we'll go to the next slide. Yeah, so that will show you that the 8 core courses. So if you are pursuing the certificate, non-credit, or the graduate certificate, you'll need to complete all 8 of these courses. And as I said earlier, during each institute, we offer 2. So if you add that up, you need to attend 4 institutes to complete the certificate and do 2 courses each time. And the last ones that we just ran this summer were Social Determinants of Indigenous Health and Introduction to Indigenous Health Research Ethics. I think they're paired up. Yes, they are. So the ones that we're offering this next coming institute in February are the Indigenous Health Policy in Canada and the Collecting, Analyzing, and Using Public Health Data in Indigenous Communities. So those are how they get blocked each institute. So if you can enter at any point, and at some point, though, you'll finish all 8 courses to complete the certificate. And maybe at the end of the question time, you can ask about any of these courses, because of course our 3 guests here today have completed all the courses, so they're all experts. I guess we can go to the next slide. Here's the slide that shows us in a really nice graphic that one of our Workline students created to show you the difference between credit and non-credit. So the basic difference, so if you come into the institute as a credit or non-credit student, there's no difference in class. People won't know you're credit or non-credit. You're all grouped in the same cohort, and it's the same content. So we're part of the same lectures and discussions, group work. But the main difference is that if you are a non-credit student, you will not have a final assignment. Final assignments are due 2 weeks after the institute ends. And they go from the standard kind of paper to sometimes a more creative assignment. We've had people do podcasts or video, like a video recording. Sometimes it's a film review, a policy statement, a letter. Like there's different types of final assignments for all of the different courses. If you're going the non-credit route, that's often somebody who maybe is coming in for 1 or 2 courses for professional development, or possibly somebody who needs to do a bit more academic work before pursuing graduate credit level. But we do try, as we say, to look at people's work experience, lived experience before we determine whether it's a credit or a non-credit entry into the program. But as you can see, for both routes, it's all 8 core courses and it's identical content. So if you come in as a non-credit student, you are no less than the next person sitting next to you. So that's something at the point that you apply that we can discuss with you further. Yeah, so maybe this is a point where we can open it it up to the three of you. So why should we take the IPH program, or what you have found about it that has benefited you? And I see in this picture up there, Cheyenne, you're in the picture. I can see that was part of the cohort you were part of there. And I think that some of these, probably some of the things that are up here, every year when we do, or every institute, we do collect student feedback to see what people have valued in the program. And I'm pretty sure that these were summarized from some of the comments that we received from students, which are generally very, very positive. So I'll turn it over to the three of you if you want to tell us a little bit about any one of these points. What did you gain from being a student in this program? It could be personal, professional, or how you applied it in your community.
Okay, I'd love to go first. I'd love to touch on the lifelong relationships point on here. In this photo, there is my dear friend Kelsey, my dear friend Cassie, and there is Kelly. Cassie, the one who's on my left, so the right one we're looking on the picture, has actually gone on to do the Masters of Health Administration with me, as well as another classmate that we graduated with as well. And I would say that those lifelong relationships that we built in the Indigenous Public Health Institute are definitely going to be lifelong because we've continued school together. And I don't know if I would have done that if I didn't have the support of the other two women. We're actually the biggest Indigenous cohort that the MHA's ever had. And I'd like to think that is in part to the IPH creating such a supportive and welcoming environment that we felt really comfortable at UBC and wanted to continue our education there. So that's the piece I want to touch on, but I'd love to hear what Kevin and Damien have to share.
Yeah, I'll speak to the empowerment part of it. So for myself, I was a probation officer prior to making the switch over to healthcare. So I was a probation officer for 15 years in the downtown east side. Decided to make a change due to the opioid crisis and losing a lot of clients. So I had to take some self-care and recognize what I was going through. So stepped away and landed into the IPN position working in correctional health services. And coming into a program where I felt a lot of imposter syndrome because we had doctors, we had healthcare professionals. I had no healthcare experience or background at all. But taking this program really gave me the foundation for me to be empowered and recognize the role that we have in healthcare, and being able to have a foot in both worlds, in the colonial healthcare system and also in the traditional Indigenous healthcare as well too, and being able to walk in both worlds there really helped me out. And this program was really behind everything for and empowered me to recognize my self-worth and my value to the correctional healthcare system.
Thanks, Kevin and Cheyenne. I just want to say, the slide deck so far makes me want to apply to the program again. Really, I think the program has really been one of the best educational experiences I've ever had. And I just want to echo what Cheyenne was saying about, the people you meet in the course is very intensive. There's group work, you're eating together, you're preparing presentations together, you're connecting about writing papers and stuff like that. But outside of the program, I just want to say, I work at BC Children's Hospital, and public health is part of the work that I do. I work with a program called Brighter Smiles, which is a great opportunity to partner with several Indigenous remote communities in the province. And I just feel like the training that we received was so relevant to the work I do. And, I'm very serious about truth and reconciliation in health. And I feel that this program was a great place to get started and to learn about healthcare that is decolonized and culturally safe. I just want to say, just back to the networking, at any given time, working on a project, like any of my classmates, I feel that I could reach out to them and ask for their opinion or advice. But also that there's, things around oral health that several of us are connected to in one way or another. And so it's nice to have that community of Indigenous public health workers that are interested in the work I do, and we can support each other. So that's great. I just made a little list of things. I see that there's 82 people on the call right now, and I just want to say, maybe you think that, maybe you won't get accepted, or maybe this program isn't right for you because of your educational past or whatever. And I just want to say, you know, um, please apply and please think about this program. I want to say it was a long time for me to be away from the classroom. And I just want to say, things like presentation, group work, paper writing, referencing, citing, literature searches, all of those things, you know, the great thing about it is you didn't have to do it alone and that there's other people around you to support you. So that's really incredible. I just wanted to talk about you know, um, doing research in an ethical, good way with Indigenous people. Our hospital does a lot of research, and I feel that some of the learning that I got from the research course on this, like I feel like I can hold, and as Kevin was saying, walk in two worlds of say, no, this needs to be community led, and there needs to be a strong community voice in this, that we just can't just run around grabbing research, and which leads me to the quantitative qualitative data analysis and Indigenous data sovereignty. Like there's just so many things that I learned that are practical in my work. But also, the other thing I learned about is, the importance of doing strength-based work, and that we're not just looking at things that are pathological or wrong, or weaknesses, that we can talk about, hey, let's do strength-based research on and talk about things that are protective, like language, culture, and ceremony. And so all those things are with me, and I feel especially touched about all this work because I'm not Indigenous myself. I'm an ally, and I feel that a lot of the information in the course equip me to be a better ally. And so that's what I just like to say to you is, if you're not sure that this program is right for you, I think there's a seat in this program for everyone that's interested in Indigenous public health. And I hope that in this round today that, we can support you as prospective applicants in answering your questions. So thank you.
I also had one more thing to share too about how wonderful the IPH program was. When I started the program in August 2022, my daughter was 5 weeks old. So she got to attend UBC with me for the intensive 1 week, and that made all the difference to me taking that program, knowing that I could bring my daughter and have my family there to support me and support my education journey, and that my child was not like a barrier to my education. It was a very supportive environment. I was supported, my daughter, my family was supported. I've never encountered anything like that at a university program before, and it really made all the difference in feeling like a really culturally safe, welcoming environment. Even like classmates, very helpful, helps really make those lifelong bonds when we're all able to connect over our kids in and out of class, spending time outside of class because you're there the entire week. It is very intensive. Um, I honestly would not have been able to do it without all the support of the IPH and Rhonda. She was amazing with that. So thank you.
Thank you, Cheyenne and Damien and Kevin. I think you bring up a very good point, Cheyenne. It's true that it almost sounds cliche to say, oh, we're a family, but I think that that does exist with the cohort because people are coming back, for 4 institutes, and new people come in each time. But I think it's been really wonderful, Cheyenne, to see you come with a newborn baby, and you came with your dad, I think, maybe the first time. I can't remember. I met your partner as well, but you're right, like just being welcomed into the circle, and there were very many people that wanted to make sure that you could attend class, that and then I think since then we've had another baby in class. Um Yeah, so it's definitely something that, as you say, shouldn't be a barrier. And maybe here's where I want to also give a shout out to our partner, the First Nations Health Authority. So we've had pretty much since we began in 2018, we had a very strong partnership with the FNHA, and they have provided a lot of funding for this program. And a lot of that funding goes towards bursaries that support Indigenous students. And part of that is if you are coming with a family, we find ways to support you in that. So whether that might mean, not being in a studio apartment, but getting something that accommodates your family. That is something that we work on with FNHA to make sure that those barriers aren't there for you to come into this program. And so we're very grateful that year after year, they have supported a good number of our students to complete this graduate certificate and certificate program. Um, Other than that, we do have other donors that support our program. So that's not the only bursary available. And as the program evolves, hopefully the support for this program will continue to evolve as well. And I did want to mention a little bit about when we say culturally safe environment. So I'm glad that the ways you guys have reflected on that. Um, I think one thing that is unique about our program is it is Indigenous led. So there's always two faculty, so two co-faculty, two instructors for each course. At least one of those persons will be Indigenous. Dr. Nadine Crone is usually one of the co-instructors, which is wonderful to be able to sit in the classroom and in the circle and learn with Dr. Nadine. That's a real draw for a lot of people. And also we have elder supports. So each class will have a different elder. So you saw the picture of Norm Leach, who was with us in the last institute. And we have a number of wonderful elders that do support our programs, and they sometimes change up. Sometimes some of them come back each institute. But we do make sure that we provide elder support so that each day class opens and closes with the elder. And oftentimes when we're having a discussion circle, the elder is very much part of it, giving us their reflection also on the topic at hand. And the elder is also available to provide support out of the classroom time if that is something that you would like. We make sure that we can match you up. You can book an appointment or a time to be with the elder as well. So we try to build in those supports, and I think that's just something that's grown with the program. So building those things in, as well as also the classroom assistant, Damien, who is available it's Damien the last time around. I think this summer we'll have Linda Jones. Some of you remember Linda. She's also a program graduate. And they are also there to help you with, understanding the assignments, offering support if you're having difficulties, especially if it's your first institute and, you're like, what's happening here? But I think, as Cheyenne said, it is a very supportive environment. So the other students will come along, and also when you're in a small group cohort will also help you to know how the week unfolds and what the expectations are. We did mention group work. There's also journals. So there's always reflective journals that students are handing in each day. And there may or may not be a final assignment depending on whether you're credit or non-credit. One of the other things on there, well, we have a picture coming up, the Wellness Day. So that's also been baked into the program so that in the middle of the week on the Wednesday, we have a wonderful partnership with the Indigenous Garden at UBC. And on the slide that's coming up, you'll see the name. I want to say it's in Musqueam. Huitsi Usam. Anyway, we'll come up to that slide and I'll try it again. But we have a wonderful partnership with the folks down at the garden. So Dr. Eduardo Joval and the staff at the garden who will lead us usually in a reflective process. We'll have a ceremony at the fire if we're allowed to have a fire. If there's a fire ban, we still have a ceremonial time down at the garden, as well as we are allowed to sort of wander and be on the land. And we have lunch down there and we just spend some time there. And it's a wonderful experience that summer or winter that we do every institute. Is there anything else that people want to mention before we move on to the next slide? I think we might have covered
I
off
have
all
one
those.
thing.
Oh yeah.
So the one thing as well too is that you really get to make a lot of connections with different individuals and the wide variety of healthcare that's out there, and just creating the network of friendships and professional networks as well too. But then also realizing as well too is that the difficulties that we face in Indigenous health, we're all all experiencing them, so we're not alone. A lot of the time, like we're going through our situations with work and in life, and we start to get this feeling that we're alone in the situation. And then when we all come together at the Institute, we realize that we're all in a similar situation, uh, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, it's good because we have people to lean on, we have people to talk to, bounce ideas off of, and I guess get a different perspective of how we can attack things when it comes to working in the colonial healthcare system. And honestly, that's a fantastic tool to have that you can lean on your fellow students in your professional life as well too once the cohort's over.
I just wanted to add on to what Kevin was saying that I think that was really well said, Kevin. And I think, the other thing that I feel is really strong is that some of the group projects and assignments are, case-based, which are based on real issues that people are dealing with in Indigenous public health right now. So I think it's very relevant to our work. And so some of the cases that I remember learning about were things that I absolutely saw in my day-to-day job at Children's Hospital. And so I think that's really important, is that it's very relevant back to whatever work that you're doing. So thank you.
It's also quite a decolonized learning environment. Instead of sitting in rows, we sit in a circle. We all get to face one another. Really helps with, all feeling like equals, open sharing. I know myself and some of my classmates, we really love to bead while we were listening to our lectures. That's something I've never been able to do at university before, is whip out my beading while I'm learning. So that was a very decolonized approach that I hadn't encountered before. So that was my last little bit, Rhonda.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I love all that. And I think all the things you're saying, it's all bringing it back to me. And just love to see things unfold as they have, like people making friends, greeting friends when they're returning to the next institute. And yeah, the way that we are in the classroom together, it really is a special environment. And as I think I had said before, we have a cohort of 25. So each institute is only 25 students. So it stays fairly small. And of those 25, the majority are Indigenous background, people from all over Canada. We are a lot of people from British Columbia, and that's partially our First Nations Health Authority partnership, but we do have applications from across the country. And I'd recommend, if you are thinking you live too far away in the north or the east of this country, apply anyway, because we do have some special bursary funds that do support students coming from long distances to help you cover the costs of travel from remote communities. So that can be an issue, and we don't want it to be a barrier. Because I think that our group is as strong as the people that are in it, because it's really designed for people to come and share their stories, like what is happening in the community that you come from, the role that you are in. So a lot of the people, it's such a diverse group in terms of what are people's roles within their community, what is the work they're doing or studying. So we have people all the way from gosh, I think we've had even we've had doctors, but don't let that be off-putting, people who have already got degrees. But we've also got people right down from being like community health, CHR, or even just, I think we had a person once who came in who was really like the receptionist or like the front office person in their health center, because there's all kinds of applications. This is really amazing education to orient you to all of the issues within Indigenous public health. And especially if you want to step out of that role into something else, it'll give you a great grounding. And I think that is the case with some of the people who have come in here. They've translated the certificate into a different job within the realm of Indigenous health. So, I mean, that can be an end goal, but I think the education in and of itself in this learning community that we've created, or this unique learning environment that the students are bringing in, is really worth it. And I think, Damien, when you say you want to apply back in again, I think because every new time when new students come, it's going to be different, right? So people bring the strengths and they bring their experiences from their communities in. And I think at some point we have a lot of alumni now. So we've been going since 2018, and our first group of 10 students graduated in It was 2019. It was just before everything, no, it was 2020. Sorry, it was February 2020, I think was our first graduation, just before everything shut down due to COVID. And we graduated 10 students. But since then, we've graduated many more, and that number continues to grow. So I think I'm putting my thinking cap on and saying we need to do something for our alumni. So maybe we can have some kind of elective or gathering of all the people who've come through the program, because I think that the ties are strong.
Thanks, Rhonda. I just wanted to add in, one thing that was really special about the program is that in addition to First Nations Health, we also at every institute we have a Métis and an Inuit Health component, and I think it really enriched the program. And I know that everyone loved it so much. Our guest speakers come from far away, and so they really invest in making sure that that the learning is representative of all Indigenous people in Turtle Island. And so for me, I think that was, early on, I just remember just loving that. And I think for, people that are on the call today, they should know that, because I think it was really special and really highlighted the issues that are, the social determinants of health and the issues faced by different Indigenous groups. So I think it's really, really important. And I just wanted to make a point of highlighting that.
It's a really good point, Damien, because I think a lot of care goes into crafting each course, so that, there is the course syllabus, which, is the standard. Well, it's not even standard. We have a different, when you see it, if you're coming to the Institute, you'll see the ways that we evaluate students, etc. But we do take care to make sure that we do have representation from Métis, Inuit, and First Nations when we are talking about a topic. So we'll bring in guests throughout the week to represent all the different perspectives. And I think that through Dr. Caron and Drew and Patty, we have a lot of cool connections out there. So some of the guests that will come through our doors are really exciting. Somebody who's really active in the area, and it really adds to the Institute. One thing I do want to say, though, is just like we do have the 8 core courses. And before we move on to the next one, I wanted to make a special mention of what happened during COVID, because I think we were all, at home, and we managed to pivot to online offerings. So one of the unique things about the Institute is we pretty much were in person. And part of that is the community building aspect of it, because we're together with the students, the elders, which it's harder to do online. Is we've learned to function in the online environment, but I think keeping the Institute in person just adds another layer to our experiences together. But during COVID, we did offer 3 electives, and I think they were really I think back to that was such a high point, because we developed new courses. We had 2 on pandemics and Indigenous communities before, during, and after COVID-19. So we talked a lot about, this wasn't the first rodeo, so to speak, for Indigenous communities going through something like we did with COVID-19. But those ones were so current, and the guests that we brought in were just telling us kind of on the ground what was happening in their communities back in the days when we were, where we weren't letting other people into the communities. How were they supporting their communities? It was just a very current course offering, and I learned a lot there. And then the other one we did during COVID times was one on the opioid crisis. And that one also, we had some very guests that were very much working in the front lines of the opioid crisis. And so these were some of the ways that we could pivot and develop new courses that our students could do while we were all, at home and not able to meet in person. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen again in the future, but what it does tell me is we can create new courses. So sometime in the future, I'm hoping that we'll be able to offer some more electives. But I think Damien's right. We build it into the 8 core courses. We're going to bring in some guests that will share different community perspectives from across the country. There we are. So that's our classroom. That is our most current group that was with us last summer, August. And this is the entirety of students. I think we've got both elders in there. We've got Elder Corrine Paul in the center there, who is with us for the morning class, and Elder Norm Leach, who is kneeling on the floor. Actually, I should say Auntie Corrine Paul. She would not like that if she's listening. But it was wonderful to have Auntie Corrine with us and Elder Norm with us in the afternoons. I point out the fire. So there's a real story around that fire there that's on the floor. There's actually two fires because so many years ago, Linda Jones made us the paper fire, which is sat at the center of every, as Cheyenne says, we're in a circle. So we've always got the fire in the center. And then last summer, somebody brought us one that was a cloth made of cloth, like a quilted and sort of a stuffy kind of fire. So it's sort of funny. I saw the laugh that came up on the screen, but that's still an integral part of every institute. We said put that at the center to remember where we are and how we relate to each other around the circle. And in that picture, I guess there's Damien in the back. You can see Damien, you can see Kevin. You can see, I guess, all the rest of the people there are students. I must be in there somewhere. Maybe I'm not. Am I taking the picture? I don't know. You can see Chloe Thomas there, who's been supporting our program for a couple of years now as our work learn. Cynthia is in the picture there, who also supports Learning Circle, but also supports our program as well. Yeah, so that's just a lovely picture of, oh, I'm in there. I see my tiny little face behind Jordan, so I am in there. Jordan Hendry graduated this year as well, and she's working on her PhD right now. So we have a wide range of how people are applying the learning and the courses and credits they do in the institutes. Anything that you guys want to say about this picture?
I'd just like to say, Rhonda, I'd like to say you and Chloe and Kira and Drew and Cynthia and Nadine, everyone, Elder Norm, Auntie Corrine. I want to say it's a very supportive program, and that there's always someone to turn to if you have a question, and it might seem silly or whatever. There's always someone you can ask a question of, or someone who can help you out if you need help with something. So I think, I know you're modest, Rhonda, but I want to say that really makes the program, is having that level of support.
I included this one in there because I wanted you to see our classroom. For a start, like, it's not your typical classroom either. So we are really lucky to have a partner with the Lou Institute, which is the I'm going to forget all the letters. Oh gosh, does anybody remember? It's the School for Global Policy. Oh gosh, I'll have to go back and tell you what that is. It's our partners, and so we have our classroom in the Place of Many Trees, which is in the Lou Institute at UBC. I think what's really excellent about this classroom, as you can see to the right, is you're looking out at big trees. So no matter the weather, in the Winter Institute, Summer Institute, we have a window to the outside. So we're always feeling like we're still there on the land. And I really loved that last summer, one of the group presentations, the group took us out. Their presentation was to take us out to the grounds just outside the classroom there and walk through that forest. And as we were doing that, they had different things for us to think about. And I just thought that was a real plus, like just getting to know that land that's surrounding the Place of Many Trees. I also want to point out that in this picture, you'll see that there's one of the small groups sitting at the front. So I don't remember if this one was a role play. I can't remember now, but I see we've got Sheldon Anderson there in the center. It looks like he's animated. So I'm thinking maybe this was a role play. But and you've also got Drew St. Laurent, who's sitting on the table there, but very much actively involved. He's one of the co-instructors of this course. And of course, he's our senior operations director at the center and is very much involved in each institute as well. Anything that you want to say about this slide? I know Cheyenne wasn't there, but Kevin and Damien, you were both there as well.
So this was the group presentation about researchers wanting to come into the reserve and study the people of the surrounding nations of this community. So that's what this was about. And there were separate role players, from the researchers, the funders, to band council members that were trying to get the surrounding communities on board.
I just wanted to add that, when I look at that classroom, I think in so many ways it was everything. It was a classroom. There was a buffet table so we could have refreshments and snacks. But also, where it is on UBC campus, one of our breakout sessions was a land-based learning, and we went for a walk and reviewed the previous day's learning on a land-based walk. And so it's just beautifully situated on campus, and the relationship between the classroom and the land is seamless. So it's a very supportive and comforting place to learn.
Yeah, and I just want to give a shout out. It's the UBC School of Public Policy and Global Affairs. So SPPGA. I knew there were a lot of P's and G's in there, but that's our partner, and that's the host location for the institute. Ah, there's the slide for the garden. Who seats some garden? So I have to learn how to say that properly, but it is sometimes we refer to it as the UBC farm visit, but the Indigenous garden is a special place at the UBC farm. So it's located at the farm, but it's its own um unit at the farm, and we have a long-standing partnership with the Indigenous garden and the staff that work there. So as I said earlier, if it's winter, we're lucky enough sometimes to have a fire and we'll have a ceremony there. In the summer, we still gather in circle. And in the summer, it's wonderful also because there's so much growing in the garden that we're allowed to wander through, and we're allowed to also pick medicines in the summer, which is wonderful to see all of our cohort students being able to take medicines home from the farm visit. And I think in the winter time, they probably provide dried medicines for us as well. And I just wanted to point out in this picture, you've got Dr. Nadine Crone there in the center. Looks like she was collecting some medicine. Melanie Rivers, some of you will recognize from the iHelp program, especially those of you who have been in the program or graduates. A lot of our center staff and team will come down and join us on the day that we visit the Indigenous Garden and be with us there. And Damien, I want to ask you about your special Skookum cell phone there. What's going on?
Well, I went wireless, Rhonda. That's what went on. Uh,
Did you get
no,
good reception there?
yeah, excellent reception. Thank you.
Yeah, and you can also see in the background the tall sunflowers. There's all kinds of different things to explore down at the Indigenous Garden. I just want to give a shout out to Janelle, who just joined us. Janelle Dens is our IPH assistant for this institute coming up. So those of you who are applying and have questions, Janelle will probably be the person who will answer those for you through the program email. But there she is. And if you get to come to the institute, you'll get to meet Janelle in person. Janelle, if there's anything at any point you want to say, just let us know. You can jump in. We're almost through our slideshow. But yeah, anything else anyone else wants to add about well, it's mostly the afternoon, because in each institute we'll visit the Indigenous Garden. Is there anything that Cheyenne or Kevin want to add about that experience?
Families were invited to attend as well. So it was also really nice being able to bring, I brought my dad and my daughter, and then she could kind of, in the beginning, she was too young, I had to carry her. But now that she was a little bit older, she was able to kind of run wild and be out on the land with us, which I really appreciated. Just again, that inclusion of family and just really supporting our learning journeys with whatever we needed. And if that was my daughter also being there with the UBC farm to help learn with us, then it was well supported, and I really appreciated that.
The only thing I have to add about this one is for the winter sessions, when they say dress warm, dress warm. It is cold out there on the farm.
Yeah, rain or shine, right? Like it can be a
Yeah.
cold day because it's February. So yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, so if you're packing to come to the institute, yeah, bring warm clothes. Yeah, shall we go to the next slide? I think we're almost up for question period, but I don't know what's coming next. Let's see what we got on the next slide. I know that Cheyenne, you'd mentioned this already, but you might want to just give a short shout out here to what's on this slide.
Yeah, so this is myself, Jennifer Pitt, who also graduated in February, and then Cassie Mitchell, who graduated last August. We are all doing the Masters of Health Administration program together, and this was our first day of school picture in September, a little while ago. We were very excited. We still are excited. Having that support of one another has really made the difference. We actually have a group chat where we are very much touching base constantly throughout as we work on our schoolwork and our group work and just supporting one another too as we navigate through colonial institutions. Those bonds have been so helpful. I would not have been doing this program without them. And I actually wanted to touch, I saw a question earlier about being nervous about applying. I am somebody who has like a nurse background, but I don't have a degree. And the program was really good at looking at my lived experiences, and that made all the difference in me being able to enter the Indigenous Public Health Institute, as well as to ladder into the Masters of Health Administration program. Them evaluating my lived experiences and looking at me as a whole made all the difference to my educational journey. Without that, I honestly don't know if I would have ever done a master's at all because I don't hold a bachelor's. So thank you, Rhonda and the IPH.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I know for the Masters in Public Health program that UBC offers, if you are interested in that, like laddering into the MPH, I don't think I believe it doesn't require you to have an undergraduate degree either. So if you don't have that, this is a great program to ladder in because it will give you, once you've completed it, the 12 credits. And those 12 credits are accepted by the MPH program as fulfillment of part of the requirement. So that's an excellent example again of how that can work to benefit you if that is your, one of the things you would like to do with this program.
And the MHA takes 9 credits of the 12 that we get from the IPH.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. And I believe that the MPH will take all 12. That's because it's more in the public health realm, I guess. But yeah, that's wonderful. I think the next slide, Damien, I think is you. We go to the next slide. And Damien can tell us how he laddered this program into the one that he's in.
Sure. First of all, thanks, Rhonda. First of all, I just want to say how inspired I am for Cassie, Jennifer, and Cheyenne. I mean, seeing the three of you in the MHA program is really inspiring for me. So congratulations to the three of you. I applied to the UBC Masters of Indigenous Education program at UBC, and Drew was one of my references to the program. And I just want to say, like, all the learning, all the training, all the experiences in the IPH program really prepared me for this program. It's the same format in many respects. There's group learning, there's paper writing and that sort of thing, but it's also very decolonized. My final assignment for my summer program was potlatches pedagogy, and we had to do our final assignment as storytelling. And the woman on the screen there is Elder Helen Clifton from the Gitgat Nation, and she came to our classroom to tell us about the potlatch from the Gitgat First Nation, and so it's just been a great program. I'm in a cohort of 24 people. You can use up to 9 credits of the IPH program towards your electives. I want to say, similar to Cheyenne, I think taking the IPH program really helped my application in applying to this program. And I honestly never thought that I would be in this program. And so I'm really honored. Most of my class are, in fact, almost the entire class are Indigenous women who are educators from kindergarten through to adult education. And very inspiring to hear the work they're doing to support education in Indigenous communities. So can't speak enough about it. So I want to say the IPH program really, really was a great foundation for carrying on with more learning. Thanks, Rhonda.
Thanks, Damien. I think our next slide, is it admission requirements? Because if it is, I'm wondering if we break here for questions. I know there's a lot of, I can see the high number in the chat. I haven't been able to look at it. So, well, we can either talk about this or move to questions if there's a number of questions. Well, I can tell you about what the admissions requirements are. And so when you go onto our website, there's a link there that has an application guide, and it should explain this there as well. So you can see that if you're applying in as a non-credit student, we look for 60 credits of undergraduate coursework, or so like if you haven't been to college or university or any other post-secondary institution, we've got or have at least 2 years work experience in a public health setting or related health field. So that's where we would want you in your personal statement to tell us about the work you're doing And if you don't have the minimum 60 credits, you would require a letter from somebody in your community or your place of work to tell us why you would be a good candidate for this program. So if you don't have any post-secondary education, that's not a barrier to this program. We want to know what you're doing in terms of your work role or your role in your community. So that's not a barrier, but like you need to explain it to us when you're applying. We're hoping though that you've got the completion of high school or equivalency, and even there, tell us your story. We're very interested in knowing about your lived experience. If you're applying in as a graduate for graduate credit for the certificate, or even if you're just coming in for a couple of courses, we're hoping you've got the bachelor's degree in this field of study relevant to Indigenous health. Although that being said, my background is in English literature, and here I am after my lived experience working in health. So, again, personal statement is part of your application. You tell us how your previous learning and prior learning connects to your lived experience and what you're doing now. We look for the overall average of a B+ in your senior courses, and hopefully in the A range, although I'm not sure we're that persnickety, but we are looking at transcripts, so that is part of your application. And then again, there's always the option for the equivalency admission. So here, if you, as it says, demonstrated strong potential in the field of Indigenous health, we want to learn about that as well. Like, what is your lived experience? Here we ask for a minimum of 4 years working in a community health setting. And again, if you don't have the academic stuff on this list, we'll ask for a recommendation letter from your community or a health organization. Yeah, so there we go. As I said, when you go onto our website, you'll see that there is an application guide that you can download and read through. And if it still seems like you've got questions, you'll see our email address there. That's our program email. And then once you are filling out the online application, you'll see that there's the link for the credit or non-credit application. Sometimes people are not sure which one to apply to, and sometimes people apply to both. I've seen that happen too. If you have questions, just feel free to reach out to us by email or phone, or even after we've assessed your application and, if it comes to the point where you're admitted to the program and we're looking over, your previous experience and academic background, we might even ask you at that point, are you sure you want to do this for non-credit? Would you like, there's even another point where you may switch to credit before the courses start. So if you're uncertain, talk to us. If you're admitted into the program and you're still not certain, talk to us before the courses start. And we can help you assess what decision that you might want to make, credit or non-credit. Well, we've had some wonderful things that the students here, or graduates, I'm sorry, you guys aren't students anymore, but that you've had to tell us about your experiences in the program. As I said, that at the end of every institute, we collect people's feedbacks, and here's just some lovely quotes from some students who have been through the program and what they've said about their experiences. I think I'll go to the next slide. You can see those or quickly read them. I won't read them. So this is the upcoming institute, February 17th to 21st. 17th is Family Day, so we're expected to be present. And I know it's easier maybe for people who are working and don't need to take as many days off, but it's hard if you need to separate from your family, or in Shan's case, if your family's coming with you, well, I guess they're with you in the off times or whatever. So that's our upcoming institute. It's our Indigenous Public Health Winter Institute 2025. The morning class is collecting, analyzing, and using public health data in Indigenous communities. And the afternoon class is the Indigenous Health Policy in Canada class. You can apply for one or both, but I think that in most institutes, most students are coming in for both. So they're with us for the whole day. Go to the next slide. Oh yeah, so I guess we'll come up to the questions. So our email, our website, if you can link to that page through the QR code, if you got your phone, you can do that. But I'll turn it over to, I guess, to Kira and to Seraine, because I haven't been monitoring the chat at all. So what do people want to know?
Hi, Rhonda. I'm just going to open up my questions here. Sorry to change the view. So we have our first question. It's just an anonymous one. So if you enroll as a non-credit but change your mind at the end of the course and want to do this as a credit, is there an option to change it, like change from non-credit to a credit student?
Yeah, well, we prefer to do that before the course starts or even after the first day. I think that's the easiest time to make that switch if you've if you've kind of got oriented, like we'll have an orientation typically on the Sunday when people come in. If you have questions after the first day of class, I think it's still great to approach us and ask us that question. I
Mhm.
think if you've gone through the whole institute, it's a bit more difficult at that point to change. That
Mhm.
being said, I think it might be a case by case basis, like speaking with Dr. Caron or with Drew. Um, Maybe there would be a way to do it, but it's not something that would be easy at that point because of the UBC registration systems. Like once you're a credit student, you're in the UBC system, because your transcript as a graduate credit student is through the UBC system. Non-credit stays with the center. So there's some different things around registration and admissions to UBC that can't be done like super lickety split like that. Like we have to actually get you admitted to UBC. So I would say talk to us early on, especially if you've got questions. If you want to know a little bit more about what works for you, try to talk to us about that before the courses begin.
Great. And then our next question is, can you be registered in two programs like IPH and iHelp?
I think that Kevin, you could answer that question, I think.
Yes, you can. I did it through my final year there. I was in the iHelp program, in the Indigenous Public Health program as well. It was a lot of work because the iHelp program is year long. So the Summer Institute does take place during the break uh, of the iHelp program, but the Winter Institute is uh, coincides with the iHelp program, so it does make it difficult because you do have double the workload. And the IPH program is a very intensive program, and the assignments and group work comes at you rapidly, so it is difficult to keep up with. So, but just be aware that you can do it. It's just you have to have very good time management, and yeah, you have to keep on the ball for sure.
Thank
Yeah,
you for
thanks,
that,
Kevin.
Kevin. Just to add on to that, from my understanding for iHelp, it's usually the semesters and whatnot are like per class. Is it similar? Like, so you mentioned that the winter institute for IPH would be like going on at the same time as like one of the last semesters for iHelp. How many courses are you taking in that last semester for iHelp?
You usually have about two courses during that period.
Okay,
So
so it would be about if you had two courses for iHelp and then two courses with IPH, it would be four courses.
four courses, yeah, on top of your daily workload of your everyday work. So
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
it adds up.
Great. Just wanted to specify that for the person asking the question. And then the next question is, will the program expand to include more students? Uh, the thought of only 25 spots available makes me nervous to apply, because back in my head, I feel discouraged and I won't get accepted. So is there any?
Well, I think now the thinking is we want to keep it to 25. And part of that is a lot of the things that you've heard here about it being a unique learning environment and a community, of students that come back uh institute after institute. I think we have talked about that before, like, adding on, but I think it's really not something that Dr. Caron is in favor of because I think we have created something quite unique here and we want to keep it that way. That being said, I know it can be a very competitive application process. But what I do want to say to you is that yeah, your academic background, your transcripts and all that is important, but it's not the most important piece. So I want to emphasize that this is a really mixed group of people. So from all kinds of different walks of life, different academic histories. So I'm going to say don't feel discouraged. I think the main key is in your personal statement. So when you apply, you have the application, the online application, your transcript, your CV, your resume, and a personal statement, and sometimes a reference letter if you don't have the academic background that's we just had up in the last slide. But I would say that the heaviest weight is on the personal statement. You tell us why you belong here, why you want to study in the Indigenous Public Health Institute. And I would say there are no barriers in some sense because um, we really want to hear about your lived experience and why this program would benefit you and your community. Um, and I think that sometimes people also may apply to more than one institute. So if you didn't get in the first time, keep applying, because we do have a number of students that are working their way through the certificate. So we just graduated 6 students in the Summer Institute. So I believe that it, creates a larger opening for this next Winter Institute, but it changes from time to time. So for the students that are in their last or even second last institute, we pretty much know that they will be coming back. But life happens. Sometimes people don't come back. So of that cohort of 25 at any given time, we may have 10 to 12, 10 to maybe, I don't know, maybe 18 spots open. I'm not really sure. It varies from institute to institute. So I'd say really take care when you're writing your personal statement and tell us why you want to be here.
I just wanted to jump in on that as well, Rhonda, and just say, I wasn't accepted on the first one either, and then COVID happened, and I got accepted in the middle of COVID, and so I just wanted to say, one of the great things about the program is it is fairly unique that we have a cohort that's reasonably small. So if you don't get in, just keep reapplying, and and just be patient and just keep trying, because it's worth it. So don't worry if you don't get in the first time.
Our next question is, where do students stay while they attend the week of the IPH? And does each student make their own arrangements, or do they have group accommodations arranged?
Yeah, so it's both. So we for the upcoming institute, we have a block of studio suites over at UBC Housing and Conferences. So in the Gage, the new signature studio suites. And it's funny because I don't know about UBC, but it operates like a hotel. So in the summer months, it's really costly to stay there, and in the winter months, it's less so. But we do try to ensure that we have bursaries to help students cover that housing cost. Particularly FNHA supports us with the housing costs for students that are in BC. They do not support the ones outside BC, but that's part of their mandate. So, and it's not a given. You have to apply for that bursary. And there's certain prerequisites or requirements to be funded as an FNHA scholar. But we do have some other donors that can help with Center for Indigenous Health bursaries, or we have the Margaret and Dorothy Memorial Bursary that's funded by another program alumnus. So there are different ways that we can help you to cover those costs. That being said, we can't cover everyone's costs. So if you have like financial need that way, we can try and help you to find other supports out there, or we can help you to find less expensive accommodation. So some of the other places on campus, like if you are housed at Green College, it'll include the meals. Sometimes in the summer months, there's the Pacific Hostel. So there is less expensive housing available on campus because they use like Place Vanier for tourist housing and student housing. Sometimes students are housed at Carey Center, which again is a self-contained room. It's a little bit less expensive than Gage, a little bit less luxurious. I mean, I don't know, Gage is luxurious, but some of the other places on campus are a little more basic. So we can help you to find those places. But I think if you can't afford the cost of on-campus housing, there's always Airbnb, or if you've got a friend or a relative or somebody who lives in Vancouver, that's always a plus. But we will try to help you to get as close to campus or on campus so that you can be part of the full experience, which, as we say, can be quite intensive. So it's very nice if you are on campus to experience all that has to offer.
Someone just followed up that question with, is that included in the tuition costs? Or is
No.
No. Okay.
No. So basically tuition is set by UBC. So if you are taking 4 credit, it is the cost of the graduate level of credits. I think in the Summer Institute, the tuition for 2 courses along with student fees ran about $1,600. And then if you were non-credit, I think each course might be $700, or maybe it's somewhere between 500 and 700. It's a different cost structure, it's a lot less expensive to be a non-credit student. And then the housing is separate. So when we ask you to apply for a bursary, if you fill out the application, you'll indicate, do you require a bursary for tuition, housing, or travel? So we have three categories. You can tick them all off if you want. You may not get funded for all three things, but we expect you in your financial statement to tell us what is most important to you. So if you need that bursary for housing, or if you need it for tuition, like there's different things that we can work on there.
The next question is, do you accept non-Indigenous students that currently work for FNHA? And then they have a follow-up question. Could you please confirm the fees for both programs, both credit and non-credit? And the third question is, do you or FNHA provide financial support for FNHA employees?
I think the answer to that is yes, in all likelihood, because we've had that situation. So when we recommend people to FNHA for the bursary, so it comes from us and we know what their requirements are. So it's somebody who's resident in BC. Typically, it's a First Nations person, so somebody who is First Nations, not Métis or Inuit. Um, but you can be First Nations from outside of BC, but have to reside in BC, but you could be Cree and live in BC. Um, and also, I think there is a special category for people who do work for FNHA. So I have seen that through the years that they will support non-Indigenous FNHA staff in this program. But I think it's on a case-by-case basis. So each institute, we recommend the names of students who meet their criteria, and they tell us who they will fund. So they typically, we come up with a list of names and it's usually accepted. But I will say it is case by case, but I do know that they have funded non-Indigenous FNHA staff to attend this program in the past. And it's a very, very good bursary with FNHA. They will fund the whole ride. So if you meet that criteria, well, I don't know, you're in a better position, I guess, than if you live outside of BC. I'm sorry to say, but we have other means to help with the students that are applying in from out of the province.
Thank you. Our next question is, I have a tuition waiver. No, I had a tuition waiver in the past and was wondering if it would also cover tuition for this program. I'm assuming potentially
Yes.
an
So that
employee.
person's probably a staff person or the
Yeah.
child or spouse of a staff person. And the answer is yes, the tuition waiver does apply to this program.
And then when was the first program run of the IPH?
So 2018. So this program started in 2018. Marshall, well, he was Marshall German, then he was my predecessor, and he worked with Dr. Caron and Patty Spittle and Drew St. Laurent, and I'm not sure who else to make those first, the first curriculum development work was done, and the first course ran, I think it was August of 2018.
And then our next question is, are there any other financial opportunities provided, like scholarships, bursaries, or anything that are not FNHA or tuition covers through the
Yeah, I might have mentioned it earlier. So we do have a number of Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health bursaries. So we have some of our own internal funding that's ours to decide how we disperse it. We also have some donor funding. So the Margaret and Dorothy Memorial Bursary is kindly offered year after year by a special donor to the program, who's also was a program attendee. And we support quite often with that bursary, we'll support the students that are coming from the furthest travel points. So there's different criteria for different funds, and we're always hoping to build that donor base. So if you're listening and you're looking for a place to, to support, to donate your money, we would love to have more bursary and scholarship funding because as with a lot of programs, there isn't enough to meet all the needs, but we do the best we can.
Thank you. And then we have two more questions. What if you're interested in working in Indigenous health, but currently working in another field? Do you have any, I guess the whole panel, do you guys have any suggestions on how to transition from one field to another? I know Kevin did that. Do you want to start out, Kevin, and then we can go around the round table?
Yeah, if you're making the transition, this program's an excellent opportunity for you to learn and understand the groundwork of the healthcare systems. And it gives you a variety of topics that are, I guess, very work related when you get into the healthcare field. Uh, Jumping in from a different avenue of work into the healthcare is rather, well, for me, anyways, for myself, it was rather difficult. Uh, I guess just coming from a correctional background into a healthcare background and just wrapping my head around the way that we viewed the clientele differently compared to the healthcare and working, especially working in correctional healthcare. Now, and just terminology used towards clientele and the systems as well too that you're going to be utilizing in the healthcare system.
Thank you,
I
Kevin.
just wanted to join in and say, I think it was mentioned earlier that, there's a lot of interest in the program. And so I think that, in your personal letter, I'd really kind of flesh out like, what your plan is for transitioning into Indigenous public health, and how the program would be relevant to your plan, I think would really help strengthen your application. Just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you, Damien. Do you have any suggestions, Cheyenne?
I don't know about like suggestions, but I would like to kind of touch on like what Kevin said with like the learning is very applicable. I was doing some work with Fraser Health before doing Indigenous communities and pilot projects, how to better serve them. And everything that was taught in the Indigenous Public Health Institute was directly relevant. Social determinants of Indigenous health, mental health care and delivery, Indigenous health policy, just having a greater understanding of all those pieces so that I could provide like better care and do better work. I found really, really helpful. I've actually recommended to like the masters that I'm currently doing that the IPH health policy and social determinants of health was a lot more relevant when we really got to look at it with that Indigenous specific lens. And in the work of Indigenous health and well-being that I'm doing, the information taught in the IPH is applied every day.
Rhonda, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, all I'd say is if you are, transferring into a focus on Indigenous health, tell us in the personal statement, like why that matters to you. Because I know that we've had students in the past who have come from a completely different place, but if you can articulate what it is that you are desiring to do and why you think this program would be a fit for you, then tell us in your personal statement.
Definitely. And I guess just my suggestion is also volunteer. There's lots of opportunities to volunteer in healthcare settings, whether that be something like what Kevin was mentioning about the opioid crisis, or even youth centers or whatnot. Like, remember, health and wellness is not just public health. Like this, if you're also trying to get in, you could look at the learning circle. There's tons of examples of different ways to produce health and wellness. It's not always the standard prescriptive clinical way. As just a reminder for anyone out there who's trying to get a leg into the industry. My background actually is in business, and I'm now somewhat in health. So yeah, so I encourage volunteering, and it not only is it good for the community, but it's also great for yourself and your career. So and we have our last question here. So this is for the whole panel. Just wondering if you guys can share how you guys stay well and take care in the lead up to or during or after the institute. So I guess like the whole process of like going into the institute, during the institute, and after the institute, staying well for being a student, but also continuing this work within public health. And just kind of stories, reflections, whatever comes to mind when you hear this question.
I just wanted to offer us, my experience. It's a great question. The week is very intense, and there's a lot asked of us. There's the reflection writings, there's the group work, there's the reading, the absorbing, and kind of just being present for everything. And so it's a lot. And so, for myself, arranging for meals, having freezer meals, microwavable things to do, but also, just making sure that I have time for myself. And this last institute, even though I was the elders assistant, I tried to take time every morning to go to the UBC pool, which I really felt got me in a really good way for the day ahead. And so I think it's something, whatever's important to you. And I know, as Cheyenne mentioned, some people are beaters, and that their crafts are important to them while they're learning. And so whatever those things are, I think, it's good to have those strategies in place, because it is a lot. And so just having that is really great. Thank you.
We used to joke that we were the crying corner club, because a lot of the topics that we would cover would be quite heavy, and we very jokingly carry that name still, the Crying Corner Club. But it was a really good way, I think, that we all got to bond together. It's hard topics. You really lean on one another for support. It helps with your learning. It helps to feel supported in the class. I know, like myself, would hang out with classmates outside as well, because you're just trying to ensure that your own well-being is taken care of while you're doing this learning. It's a lot of heavy topics. The elders support that they offer was really great. We had elders that would offer to smudge or cedar brush to help ensure our well-being was taken care of. Being able to practice our beading, our medicine while we're doing those hard topics, I would say all really helped, at least with my well-being throughout the institutes.
Yeah, just adding on to what Cheyenne said, Cassie was the one that referred me to the program, and she mentioned the Crying Corner Club. And yeah, I'll admit, hearing the stories and sharing stories as well too, gets really emotional at times. And this program is going to challenge you to look at a lot of the stuff that's underlying with yourself, and why do you want to do this work, and what got you involved in this line of work. And so these programs and these institutes bring up a lot of underlying emotions that you might not thought have been there in the past. And so you have to recognize that going in as well too. And then just as well too, like just the emotional connections that you're making with people, and over the 2 years that you're going to be in the institute, and then recognizing, like, when you graduate, then like you're going to have that gap now, then, and you're gonna have a feeling of a void, because you're not able to return back to the institute in a student capacity. And so just being able to connect with your fellow classmates, and being able to connect with your fellow graduates as well too, on a daily basis, or just however often that you need them, is a valuable tool that you're going to recognize that you're gaining from this institute.
I think that's so, I love hearing those stories. I think as a staff person, it's slightly different. So that, we definitely have our ebbs and flows in terms of how busy it is behind the scenes. But I do want to give a shout out to, this last institute that I was part of, the Summer Institute, because I had a gap there, right? Like, it was incredible to come back and see how well supported we are. We have volunteers in the classroom. So a shout out to Janelle, who was a volunteer last summer, is now on staff with us. And to Kira, who's behind the scenes there, also volunteered with us last summer. Thank you so much for all the wonderful support you gave us. And to Chloe Thomas, who's not on the Zoom, but who has, with her incredible time and energy and just expertise, supported this program very well through the years that she was our Indigenous Public Health Assistant. So I want to say that it's a real team approach, and it helps to carry that load through the very busy times. Like I'm like I know once we get back in January, it's going to be very busy as we build towards the time of the institute. But it's also super rewarding that when we actually all come together for the week, just to see everybody come back and to meet the new people and just build this incredible learning community together. It makes it all worth it. And yeah, we do also just owe a lot to our volunteers and to our staff team at the center as well. So at the Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health, there's a lot of support that comes through people working in other programs there as well. So I just want to give a shout out and thanks to all who do contribute to making the program what it is.
Thank you. Yeah, that was our last question. I believe, do you guys have any last closing remarks or any goodbyes you want to say to everyone? Or I think you guys, that last question seemed like a good transition to the end. Yeah, if you want me to take over, I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you to everyone who joined us, and also thank you, Cheyenne, Damien, Kevin, and Rhonda. It's been great to learn about the IPH program and just how impactful it's been to your guys' lives, but and your careers, and I guess just like your whole vision of health and wellness, which is amazing. And yeah, so just before we end the webinar, I'd love to bring your attention to our upcoming webinars. We have our next one on November 23rd with Decolonize and Rise. And then we have another one on December 4th, Beat as Medicine. That's on December 4th. And then we also have another one on December 12th. That's I just can't remember the title, and it's also not on here. So you'll see it on the next one. But all of our webinars are free to sign up for on our website at www.learningcircle.ubc.ca. And you can also find them in our newsletters. And yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us today. We look forward to seeing everyone at our next Learning Circle. Live. Thank you.